Hello, hello. Let's just move some stuff over. Get everything all ready for today's live. Let's make sure my sound is off. Oh, it's a little crooked, of course it is. All right. If you are dropping by, just put a quick comment to say hello. And we'll get into some crafting very shortly. Oh, I forgot. Nope. Gotta get that put away. I've got to grab my embossing tools, and then we'll be ready for that portion. I think that's all I'm missing. Let's see this. All right, very good. So let's see, can we zoom in a little bit? All right. Hello, Maggie. Happy New Year to you as well. Let's see if I can try to get this nice and even. It's about as good as it's gonna get. Hello, Karen. Happy New Year to you. All right. Perfect, perfect. All right, y'all. So we're gonna get into a little bit of crafting. It is our last Facebook Live of 2023. Which is crazy to think about for me. I just can't believe how quickly years always seem to wrap up. I always kind of feel like once you hit that point of the year where kids start going back to school, you know it's just going to be a matter of time before you're hitting Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, of course, to those of us who celebrate. And then Christmas puts you right at the end of the year. And so we're already looking at 1.5 days, I guess, at this point left of the year before we ring in 2024. So, of course, while this may be the last Facebook Live of 2023, I will be back next year with several more inspirational inspirational. Geez, I sound like a coach, a life coach or something. That's not my intention. Just providing you with a little bit more inspiration with further Facebook Lives into the year of 2024. So for today, for my last live of the year, I am going to be using the Happy Afterlife stamp set, which I realized I have not used before. And we're going to be using this stamp set to actually create a card that's going to fit in for the challenge going on, which is endings is our theme. And maybe I'm being a little morbid, but I mean, ghosts kind of do represent some sort of an ending. So this does fit the theme, so stay with me for that. But we're going to go ahead and get some crafting. Now, as you can see, I did already color up a little bit of my images today because I just didn't want it to take up too much time. And I thought that it would just be best if I went ahead. I'm going to move my lights in just a little bit closer. If I went ahead and had them colored up in advance. So we're going to go ahead and just start a little bit of coloring. So I'm going to color up this guy and the remaining portion of our little ride vehicle. And I'm going to be using the same colors I've used for the other images. So let's start with our ghost figure. And I'm going to start with some BG05. And this is going to be his darkest color. So anything on him that I want to be the darkest is going to get this BG05. So we're going to start with his hat. And not the band on his hat, but the brim. I'm not going to color anything with his skin. Let's do maybe a little bit just over here to create a little bit of shadow. We're going to do under his arm, around the lapel area of his shirt. I like to think of ghosts as monochromatic, so everything kind of ends up being about the same color. So we're gonna color his bag, color his jacket, that little fold right there. We're gonna go up and around, and then we're also going to color in his bow and part of his bag handle. All right, next, let's go ahead and go on to the next color. Oh, I'm missing a comment. I know. Maggie says she's so done with, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Maggie. So I'm glad that this is giving you a little bit of comfort, but I apologize that 2023 was a little rough on you. We're going to move on to some BG13, which is going to be the only BG1 color that I am going to be incorporating. And that's just because I like when my goats have just like, they're mostly blue, but I like when they have like a tinge of green to them. So that's why we're going to go ahead and incorporate that. So we're going to do so I get that from this BG13. We're also going to use this to start coloring in his skin. Under his nose area, in his mouth. I'm also going to start working on his hair. And just kind of working on all of these shadows, bring them all out a little bit. Normally I would put my face a little closer to my image, but that's okay. I'll do above his nose, like that. All right, next color is going to be BG01. And we got a jumper. Oh, and I'll clean that later. Just like that. And this is going to bring a lot more of that blueness into our ghost. Like I said, I like just a tinge of that green from the BG13, but I do want my spectral images to predominantly be kind of like a glowing blue color. I always kind of go back and forth too when it comes to what color I like to make ghosts. Sometimes I'll go just strictly sort of blue Copics and just stick within like the B family. Sometimes I'll go a little darker and I'll go like BG7s because those kind of make your ghosts have a little bit more of an earthier feel to them. It just sort of depends on what you're going for. If you're looking at any sort of inspiration or trying to keep your images true to character, what was given to you to work with. Oh, something tells me my BG0 is going to need a refill. So BG000 is going to need a refill soon. That's okay. And then we're going to finish this up with some BG quadruple zero. Go over his eyebrows. I'm just going to kind of go over everything in all honesty. And he looks, in my opinion, not as clean as I would like him to look. So I am going to go in, of course, and color him up twice. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to work with his hair and add a little bit of texture. That way I won't have to go back to it later either. Just... All right, now let's go in and start repeating our colors. So we're going to do some, that one needs to, it's going to stain my mat a little bit, but we got it. All right, let's go back and with some BG05. This will really start to darken things up. Get that good saturation with your image going. Now, when I'm talking about a saturation, I mean when it makes your colors deeper. So not necessarily darker, though that is what it'll appear to do. I'm talking more so about giving you that deeper effect. Next, we'll go on to some BG13. Let's see, let's make sure I'm not missing any comments. Nope, we're good. All right. And then go back to his face. Start just, kind of frame things out. Look at his hands. And then start bringing out the rest of the colors. All right, next we're going to move on to some BG01. I had the card all planned out for today, and it was going to be like no ink blending, just pattern paper. And then I started thinking, I'm like, oh, but I want a little bit of detail here and a little bit of extra there. Yes, I did do the parts of his face. And so, of course, I had to incorporate a little bit of ink blending in, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I think it's a really fun sort of layout for this set. That squeaky noise is the sound of a thirsty marker. I also was assuming that that mouthpiece that's like under his lip is just like an open mouth, so that's why I colored it dark. You could also interpret that it's like kind of like a buck tooth of sorts. It just sort of depends on where you want your coloring style to go. So I went with just kind of open mouth, but please, whatever makes the most sense for your project. All right. Perfect, perfect. Now I just want to go in really quickly and we're going to work on just the bottom part of the little ride vehicle. So we're going to go in with some CG6. Now for the colors I'm using, everything is the same of like what I used up above. The only difference, so I'm coloring this part of the vehicle the exact same colors that I used for the top part of this bar, or the vehicle. This, because it's nestled in a little bit, I added a C8 just to make it a little darker. And then the colors that I just used to color up that last ghost image, I used the exact same colors for the rest of the ghosts as well. He may look a little darker right now. That's because his ink is wetter. He will dry up. He'll match them very nicely. You'll see that probably closer to the end of our project. All right. Next, let's go into some C4. And I'm just going to use 3 colors for the ride vehicle down here. I'm actually going to end up covering some of this up. So I'm not overly concerned about a bunch of color blends going on down here. All right. And then we're going to finish. The last color is going to be C2. My C2 is thirsty too. That's okay. All right, now we're gonna color this up once more. So we're gonna do some C6. I'll have to do some correcting with a white gel pen, but that's pretty standard for me. Next, we'll do some C4. And finish with some C2. Sorry about the squeaking, y'all. I promise when I colored this the first time, earlier, I wasn't dealing with any sort of squeakiness. But it's looking pretty good. We'll take that. All right, now I gotta go in with some white gel pen and do a little bit of coloring outside the line corrections. So let's see, here we go. It's not too bad. A couple little bits and bobs, but just kind of clean my image up. Like that. A little bit over here. Very little bit up top. Like that. All right. They are all done. Now let me just see if I've missed anything new. Maggie says, any upcoming releases coming in January? I think that, yeah, I'm pretty certain there's a January release coming. I can't give like official notices, but I believe you were pretty good with monthly releases. So I would definitely say there is a high likelihood of a January release. Let me grab some water. I should have grabbed a straw. I did not, and that's okay, but I will work towards that. And then Karen said, always amazed how light the grays look on the pen, but how black they look when they blend on the paper. That's why I always say when it comes to coloring up something that you're going with like a gray or a black, always color it up a little bit lighter than what you anticipate, because you can always make it a little darker, but you want to capture those shadows, you know, and shadows and highlights. And the only way you're going to get that is if you allow your image to be a little lighter in appearance than if you were just to color it like super dark. All right, so we're just gonna fussy cut our trio of ghouls out. Right. Even though this is a bigger image, it's not that difficult to fussy cut. So I will take that. See, I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to have some like huge mistake. Just around this little hitchhiking thumb. All right. So now I want to kind of map out what I have planned for the rest of my card. So let me show you guys where my thoughts are of what I want to do initially, and we'll see where it goes from there. So I've gotten a couple patterns that I've cut out from the Gothic Vibes paper pack. So let me grab that to just show that. So there's this pattern down here, which is like a damask sort of haunted purple and black print. And my thought is I want them over it, but I also want to kind of give it that haunted wallpaper look. So I want to make it look like they're kind of strolling down a hallway in their ride vehicle. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to have like a focal image like that. And then let's see, what else do I got? And we're also going to mat the square with some like charcoal glitter paper that I had in my stash. So that's my initial thought. And then I have a second bit of pattern paper from Gothic Vibes. And this is just like this, like very sort of ornate black skull pattern. And I took the graveyard scene die and I just kind of want to put it along the bottom, because I cut this and this with the basic card dies. So my thought is to kind of have everything, see, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm trying to get it that way. So it's like that. And I'm going to have a sentiment over the doom the little ride vehicle. See, I almost said a bad word. And then we're gonna go ahead and maybe add a couple embellishments. So that's kind of my thought for how this is all gonna go. But of course, we're gonna dress everything up. It's gonna be a lot more clean looking than this. So let's just get into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some ink blending. Let's see if we got any comments. Oh, thank you so much, Barbara, for the compliment. Now this is, so there's a stitch square that's included with the Card Basics die. So that's what I use to cut this shape out. So this is from the Gothic Vibes pattern. But I had some textured wood grain cardstock that I also die cut from this stitched square. And then I cut off some excess so that way it's perfectly sized to fit along the bottom and continue that stitched effect. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do, I have some vintage photo distress ink, and we're just gonna go ahead and ink blend along the bottom of here. It's just gonna give some nice dimension. And then let's do a little bit of assembling. I'm gonna go ahead. I almost thought I didn't bring my spray bottle back in here from the kitchen, but I did. So yay. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my little wood floor piece over here. And then I'm also going to glue this. You know what, the one thing that always kind of hurts my crafting heart a little bit when you use pattern paper is when you flip it over and realize this pattern, I'm not going to use it. It's just going to get glued on top of something. I guess that's its purpose, but goodbye, double-sided portion of my project that I will never see again. It's me being a little too sentimental. All right, so let's see. So we're going to go ahead. Just kind of press this down a little bit. Da, da, da. All right. All right, so we can set that off to the side. I actually might set it off to the side with a glass, an acrylic block on top of it. Yeah, let me grab one of those so that way it has some pressure. All right. Next, I should probably do a little bit of wiping. Probably should grab some water, but I'll be fine. All right. Next, I'm gonna grab some black soot distress ink with my little die cut portion of the graveyard scene and just sort of distress along the bottom. Darken it up a little bit. Just like that. To really take that gray color and darken it up quite a bit. All right, that'll add some nice shading. And then what I also want to do I have it? I do. I've got some sparkle silk, which I just want to go ahead, let me flip my image over just so I don't have any mistakes. And just sort of splatter this. It's going to give a nice sort of glittery effect to my tombstones. All right. So once that's dry, it does dry pretty quickly. And I love adding just that little bit of pop of glitter with sparkle silk. So I reach for it often. Oh, I need this. That would be a good look as a shaker card. Use those little tombstones as the shaker. That would be cute. Hello, Gwen. Karen knows what I'm talking about with double-sided paper. We own it to use it, you know? Like, that's the one thing is when we start buying things that we're like, oh, but it's too pretty to use. It's like, sometimes you must part with those things to use them for their intended... You know what? What am I talking about? I have seen memes that crafting and actually, like, purchasing craft supplies are two totally different hobbies. And I mean, let's be honest, it's true. Because I think we get two totally different experiences. Like, one, it's great to create with the things that inspired you, that you purchased. But, like, also to just think about the possibilities of what you could make by what you're buying. You may never actually make them, but that brings you a different type of joy that is 1000% absolutely valid. And please know, I partake in that as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I've got that glued down. And then we're going to go ahead. Didn't I have a card base somewhere? Where did that go? Yes, I do have a card base. All right, so see another double-sided spider web design. Never gonna see the light of day. Again, wah. That's okay. That's okay. So I'm putting this on some of that same charcoal glitter paper. A little bit of glue in places that I don't want. And that's why I also like using liquid glue though with this, because I can kind of shuffle things around where I need them to be. Glitter paper though, in my opinion, is kind of hard to use adhesive with because it doesn't like grip onto paper right away. The glue really needs to set. So, oh, now you can see a reflection of my camera. Look at that. All right. Ooh, we're getting there. We are getting there. All right. So let me move this off to the side with a block over it, and we can work on our sentiment. And I have the negative of the graveyard piece that I didn't know if I was going to use for anything else. So I'm going to use this for my sentiment. I need to go grab my Misty. Oh, where did you go? Oh, phooey. How... Don't you love it when you have things out that are ready to be used and then they just go missing on you? And the truth is it's probably not missing. It's just exactly where I intended to put it, just not where I'm looking right now. Oh, phooey. All right, we're going to take a second and we're going to think real long and hard. Justin, where did you put that Misty? See, and the problem is I found another Misty, but I don't have the pad inside of it. So that doesn't help me very much. Justin! Let's see what we can do. Okay, I'm going to use my other Misty. And I know the moment that I start deciding to use this, it's going to be like, oh, that's where you put it. I know exactly where it is now that I think of it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to use this sentiment, home is where your ghouls are. I actually have to get a new mouse pad too because I accidentally melted a portion of this one on accident. Public service announcement, don't heat and boss things while they're inside your Misty still. Things could melt. All right. Why do I always lose things? So we're going to go ahead, use an anti-static tool. Please don't let me down. All right, so I think that's a good impression. It's a nice solid stamp, so I'm hoping it embosses well. All right, let's grab a piece of paper and my embossing powder. All right. Now we may heat emboss. All right, that's pretty good. Sometimes once you get a little, like, when you start heat embossing as much as I do, because for whatever reason, I heat emboss almost like any sentiment that I'm working with. Why is my thing leaking? Oh, you start to realize what sort of sentiment styles are going to work the best for you when you're heat embossing. So I had a hunch that this home is where your ghouls are would work very nicely for us. And I was gratefully correct when I was thinking that. All right, so we're gonna put our sentiment back so I don't lose it. I was gonna make a comment about, now I'm gonna have to make it anyway, that I have luckily then yet to lose like one stamp from a stamp set, but I feel like now that I've brought that into fruition, I've made the mistake of like summoning that issue into my life. So stay tuned for that potentially happening to me now in the future. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm also going to fussy cut my sentiment out. This is not me doing the fussy cutting. This is just me cutting it out to begin with. And then let's see what we can do. I really enjoy fussy cutting sentiments because I think it allows them to pop really nicely for you. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm also like a huge fan of using sentiment strips, but sometimes fussy cutting the sentiments out, I like equally, if not more. Right. Just sort of going around each of the letters as I fussy cut to try to keep that main shape going so it doesn't look blobby. All right, and then sometimes you see how on my top line Between home and is, I went in, and then is and where I also went in. But down here I didn't for your Ghouls Are. I kind of kept it all just like a shallow cut. I did that because I didn't think this gap was enough to justify going all the way in there and cutting things out. So I say choose if you want to go deep or if you don't, and whatever you choose, just be consistent for that like individual line. So like I feel like it's totally fine that I did it up here but not down here. But if I would have just done it between like your and Ghouls and is and where, it might like look a little different. But if that's what you're going for, hey, we're all creating whatever we want. So by all means, I'm just giving you my 2 cents. That was unsolicited. So we're going to go in now. We're going to do a little bit of ink blending with some black soot, just to kind of darken up the bottom. Now, this is that emboss resist technique that I'm sure you heard of before, but if you haven't, when you ink blend with most inks over an embossing powders resist the ink because it's like a smooth plastic, and you can just sort of wipe off that ink and it retains its original color. But see, now I say that, and with using white, there's always like a little bit of a remnant of the color, but for the most part, we're good. All right, we are getting there. So let's see what we can work on. So let's put this, let's do a card. No, we're gonna do the card base last, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put our little background on. All right. So we're gonna go ahead. We're going to push that into place. Perfect. I think it could be maybe a little bit more this way, but not too much. All right, just like that. Awesome. Next, so we're gonna put these guys just kind of right in the middle like that, but I wanna put them up on some foam tape. So let's do that. I'm actually gonna put the foam tape behind the sentiment as well, which is gonna raise that a little higher. I also love that this is like one nice solid image, so I don't need a bunch of pieces of foam tape. All right. Oh, I can probably put that right there. Let's make sure, use these lines to try and get things nice and centered. Right. And then I'm going to have my sentiment be like right over that. So let's get some tape, pop that up. You know, also too, I know I said this is for the December challenge, that it fits the theme, but I'm also sitting here being like so proud of myself that I was able to sneak one last like Halloween theme project in before the year is over. So I'm gonna sit here and say kudos to you, Justin, because Halloween crafting, oh, always my favorite. But not necessarily Halloween, but anything spooky. Anything spooky-ooky. All right. Just sitting here amused with myself. So let's see. Just like that. All right, now we're not done, of course. I wanted to add a couple embellishments using our Kindred Spirit enamel dots. I'm not going to use too many, though. So let's do these purpley gray ones. And then like a dusty gray. And a dark purple up here. Oh, and then let's do a little bit down here as well. So we're going to go with that dusty purple, that gray purple. What's the difference between dusty and gray purple? I have no clue. Oh, but you know what? Let's do that. Work in clusters of 3. Like that. So let's see. How are we doing? Could probably add like one more there. Maybe something like floating up here. Yeah, like that. And just floating like up there a little bit. All right. Let's get this onto a card base. It's got a pre-made A2 sized card base ready to go. I feel glue on the back, so make sure that dries before I do anything with it. And there we have it. A little hauntingly spooky creation using the Happy Afterlife stamp set. And some paper too. All right, let me see if I'm missing any comments. Nope, I think we're good. All right, let's do a quick recap just of everything that we used to create this card. So we use the Happy Afterlife stamp set, which is where our image and our sentiment came from. We also used the Gothic Vibes paper pack, which was what we had used for the purple wallpaper sort of effect, and then the ornate skull pattern in the back as well. I used the graveyard scene craft die to just make a little bit of a border along the edge just to add a little bit of extra detail. We also used this is the Snowfall embossing powder that we used with the Kindred Stamps embossing pad, and we used some Kindred Spirits enamel dots. I threw in some paper, some glitter paper that was like a gunmetal charcoal color, glittery from my stash, and some textured wood cardstock, the wood grain cardstock down here. Did a little bit of ink blending along some of the edges of our die cuts and pulled everything together. So this was super fun and not too difficult to make. I know I did the coloring in advance, and that definitely saved us some time. I just thought it was going to take a long time if I did everything together. But there you guys have it. So you've got our very last Kindred Stamps Facebook Live project of 2023. I will be back next month with more crafting, more inspiration. And like I said, I can't give like official like news that can never 100% come from me, but you can say there's probably a very strong likelihood of a release for next month. We always try to do monthly releases here. So once in a while, you might have a monthly release that skipped, but those are always made up with too, because Audra does special releases throughout the year for any of our special edition kits and classes. She's done a couple retreat announcements in the past, so you never know what's coming your way. But let me just say thank you all so very much for crafting along with me today and for all of 2023. I know we've talked a little bit. Some of us may have not had the greatest 2023. Maybe some of us have had a decent 2023. Regardless of how your year went, I only wish you that 2024 brings you more joy, more fun, and more crafty inspiration. So thank you all so very much for stopping by today. Let me be one of the first to wish you a very happy upcoming new year, and I'll look forward to crafting together with you in 2024. 2024. So on behalf of all of us at Kindred Stamps, Happy New Year and have a great rest of your weekend, guys. Goodbye.